I never thought a single sentence could cut through an entire lifetime, but that night at our family dinner, it did. My sister leaned back in her chair, smirking, and told me I didn't deserve our family name. My mom agreed. My dad wouldn't even meet my eyes. For a moment, the room tilted, and I felt myself disappearing right in front of them. Then my grandpa rose slow, steady, and said something that shattered her smile instantly. Most people think the story ends with those words. But the truth, the part no one saw, came after Dot. My name is Eliana, and for most of my life, I learned to shrink myself just enough to keep the peace. No one told me to. It was something I picked up from the way my family's attention always tilted toward my sister. She was the star, the favorite, the one who represented the family. I was the quiet one, the steady one, the one who blended into the background while everyone else sparkled Dot at work. I'm a project coordinator, organized, calm, trusted. People value my voice there. But at my parents' house, those same qualities somehow made me forgettable. I stopped counting how many times my mom told me, "You're too sensitive," right after praising my sister for speaking her mind. Or the times my dad brushed off my achievements graduating early, earning promotions like tiny footnotes to my sister's louder milestones. Still, I kept trying. Not to impress them, but because a small part of me hoped they'd someday see me the way Grandpa does. He always treated me like I mattered. He listened. He noticed. And when I was little, he said something I never understood until that night. A family name doesn't make you worthy. Your character does. The dinner we were invited to was supposed to be an ordinary holiday gathering, but the tone felt rehearsed. My sister filled the family chat with bragging updates about a new work award. Cousins whispered about Grandpa choosing someone to be in charge of a piece of the family legacy. Dot, and everyone assumed it would be her. I told myself not to care, not to let old patterns ruin another holiday. But on the drive to my parents' house, the sky looked heavy, like it knew something I didn't. When the day finally came, the tension was already thick. My sister sent me a message saying, "Bring something simple. We don't want the table to look uneven." She meant food, but the subtext burned out at work. People asked if I was excited for the holidays. I said yes, because explaining my family's invisible tripwires would have taken hours. 2 days before dinner, my sister called, bright voice, sharp edges. She said Mom wanted the table arranged a certain way. Dad didn't want stressful topics. And Grandpa had been asking interesting questions about responsibility, leadership, and family values. Then she added, he values tradition. Some people fit that better than others. She didn't mean to say my name. Dot. By the time I arrived that evening, the driveway was full, the lights were warm, and the tension pressed against my ribs like an old, unwelcome memory. Dot. Inside, the small cuts began immediately. My aunt called me sweet. She called my sister beautiful. Mom fussed over my sister's dish and gave mine a polite, thin smile. Dad patted my shoulder on his way to the living room without stopping. Dot. By the time we sat down, the air felt tight enough to snap. Dot. My sister dominated every conversation, cutting me off, redirecting attention to herself, speaking loudly over me with that familiar, practiced ease. Mom beamed every time she opened her mouth. Dad stayed silent, adjusting his silverware, pretending he didn't notice. Dot. Grandpa watched everything quietly. Then came the unraveling. Dot. My aunt asked me about work. The table actually went still long enough for me to answer, but before I got through my second sentence, my sister laughed loudly and swept the spotlight away with the story about some minor success she'd had. The disrespect was so blatant, the whole table paused. Dot. Something inside me loosened. Not broke, just loosened. Like a rope finally slipping after being pulled too tight for too long. I wasn't angry. I was just tired. Dot. So I chose silence, not the shrinking kind, but the clear kind. Then dessert plates were cleared. New drinks poured. And my sister straightened with that bright, Dangerous smile. She'd found her moment. She dropped her fork with a soft clink and leaned back confidently. You know, she said loudly, not everyone sitting here deserves our family name. The room froze. Mom nodded instantly. Dad stared at his napkin. My sister continued, voice dripping with sweetness and venom. Some people just exist in this family without contributing anything meaningful. They hide behind being quiet and think it makes them special. Really, it just makes them forgettable. Then, with a smile that felt like a blade, you're not worthy of our name, Ellie. The words should have shattered me, but instead, everything inside me went still. Then Grandpa moved. He lifted his glass, tapped it once on the table, and stood not fast, not slow, just with a weight that pulled the entire room into silence. My sister brightened, expecting him to agree with her. He looked at me, first eye soft, then turned to her. You think she isn't worthy of our name? He asked. She blinked, caught off guard. I'm just being honest. He raised his hand. She fell silent. Then neither are you, he said. Her smile cracked. Gasps rippled across the table. Grandpa continued, voice calm and devastating. For months, I've been watching, listening, deciding who should guide this family's legacy when I'm gone. And tonight, you showed me everything I needed to know. He looked at my sister steadily. You've mistaken arrogance for strength, entitlement for leadership, cruelty for confidence. She inhaled sharply. Mom tried to defend her, but Grandpa cut her off. You nodded, he told her. And he pointed at my dad, looked away. Dad wilted. Then Grandpa turned to me. Ella Leona, he said, you have carried yourself with grace in a family that has not always shown you the same. You listen. You steady yourself. You lead with character. That is what makes someone worthy of a name. A tightness in my chest cracked open. For the first time, I felt seen. My sister whispered, this isn't fair. Grandpa's reply was soft. Final. Fairness is finally catching up. When the night ended, the house moved in hushed, uneasy silence. My sister disappeared down the hallway, crying. Mom followed. Dad pretended to clean dishes. Grandpa touched my arm gently. Come with me. Outside, under the dim holiday lights, he said. I meant every word. You're the one I trust with what comes next. You've earned it. It wasn't the legacy that mattered. It was the recognition, the one thing I quietly hoped for my entire life. Driving home, I felt a calm I'd never known. Not empty, not sad, just settled. For years, I believed I had to earn a place in my family by being small, careful, agreeable. But that night, I finally understood. Worthiness isn't granted by a last name. It's revealed by how you live. And I walked out of that house carrying my name differently. If you've ever felt unseen in your own family, share your story in the comments and subscribe for more stories like this.